Hello, my name is Karen Robbins, and I'm one of the education team members here at the Alzheimer's Society. And I'd like to take the next half hour to discuss some ideas and concepts in regards to visiting during social distancing. What I'd like to cover over this next little while are three key components. So I'd like to discuss what does a visit look like, what to consider ahead of time, and what to do and where to look for ideas, because bless the internet, there is a lot out there to the point it can almost be overwhelming. So in regards to what does a visit look like, I kind of want to break it down into a few different components. And not to get too academic about it, but when we talk about visiting, what the definition of that is about spending time with someone. It may not be someone that you like. It may not be a type of visit I feel like doing, but it's about a measurement of time. So visiting is spending time with someone. Nothing wrong with that. Another component of visiting during social distancing is about relationships. This is someone that I care about. I might not have a lot of time, or because of the realities of social distancing, I can't spend a lot of time with them. So a relationship is about emotions. A relationship is about a past history. So these two things come together in regards to social distancing. They become much more heightened. I do want to spend time with someone, but I can't. I have this relationship with someone, but it's changed now because I can't have that intimate kinship moment, which is what a relationship is. So what I want to talk about today are both of those components. There's nothing wrong with either of those, but I want to focus on kind of this overlap of the two of them, where I'm spending some time, no definition of the amount of time, with someone who I have a history and a kinship with. So this is what I call the sweet spot when it comes to visiting someone living with dementia. It's this overlap of the time that I spend and the meaning behind the visit. So I'd like to watch this video, and just because it's such a positive and some kind of negative time. So here we go.
Shopping at home?
Yeah, we've made a shopping centre at home, especially for you. So do you want to grab your bag and I'll come and take you shopping? Okay. Now, you've got your shopping list. We've got the supermarket at home. Just trying to make sense of what the week is just blown to pieces for her. Her routine has really been thrown, and just trying to make sense of what the week is just blown to pieces for her. So one of her big things that she hangs her week on is her weekly shopping trip. So we can't take her to the shops anymore, but what we thought we'd do is we'd open up a supermarket at home. Let's go to the shops and see what we need. Oh, it looks good, doesn't it? You think? We are taking a little video of this just to show people that we can still have fun doing shopping at home. Okay? Yeah. So we've got your list here. So let's start and have a look what you need. So let's back up a little bit. We don't need bananas. Excuse me, madam, have we got any bananas today? Only 7 bananas, okay. We might take those, I think. Brussels sprouts. We need cauliflower. Have a look on your list.
Yes.
Oh, hang on, is cauliflower tipped? Cauliflower's not tipped, so we don't need that this week. So we'll leave that in the shop for someone else. Now it says you need 2. What are these ones? What if we just take the 2 we need and then we leave the rest for other people?
Yeah, we got apples.
Oh, but you need any chocolate? How many chocolate?
2.
2.
Yeah, and
We'll have a look. Do we need Easter eggs? Oh, this one's for the kids, eh?
Yeah.
For the kids. Have you got some books there, though?
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. We'll take the whole pack.
Yes. Is it online shopping?
Yeah, it looks like. So you're going to have to see Art on the cash register.
Yes.
Give him your card so you can pay for it, and he'll give you a receipt. Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, darling.
Have a good day, madam.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So,
Did you like it?
yes.
Yeah, we've got everything we need. So we've been to the shops today, okay? Yeah. Mwah. You're welcome.
Lovely.
There you go. So I just find it a positive social interaction. I mean, this is a lot of work, and that's not exactly what we're going to be talking about today, but it just shows how sometimes the most simple and basic of ideas can be a positive social visit. So, oops. Okay. So what does a social visit look like? Well, I mean, to begin with, it really depends on where you're coming from and recognizing that watching this video, anybody could be watching this video. So I kind of decided I'll break it down into 3 different categories. So do you live with them? So if you live with them, is it just the 2 of you? Are there other people in the household? Because then you have more options to tap into. Quite often people living with dementia have someone else in the home with them, but there are people that live alone. The other thing is, okay, so you don't live with them. Do they live alone? So I might have mom or dad living in a retirement home, but they have their own unit, their own suite. I may have someone that lives in a condominium, but they live alone. I may have someone that still lives in their original home and they've lived there for decades, but they live alone. What that means is I don't have someone within the brick walls in those moments that I can tap into, or are they with others? So they may live in their own suite, be it a retirement home or a condominium, but there are other people that I could maybe tap into, be it the staff that work there. Maybe I know some of the neighbors and so on. So whether I live with them or do I live away from them, they fall into different categories. And then, of course, do they live in a long-term care retirement home where there are paid staff? There's a difference if they have a private room and they share with others. If they have a private room, depending on what the stipulations are in regards to the COVID-19 social distancing requirements, they may not even be allowed to leave their room. So there's a lot of different things that come into where you're coming from in regards to planning how to have a social visit during these times. It also depends on where you're coming from. And now we're going to get a little bit more into the weeds here, but it's important. The history of the person that you're caring for. I mean, are you caring for someone whose social disposition has always been more upbeat? They're kind of more positive, or they may be not so positive. Maybe they struggle more in just being able to talk about their feelings, emotions, frustrations, celebrations, and so on. So that's one component. There's some history there. If I'm not used to having social interaction with my father, it's going to be more difficult to develop that now at this point. Not impossible, but it's going to be very difficult. Another thing that kind of influences in regards to where you're coming from is the person themselves. Have they always enjoyed solitary activities? Are they more of an introvert? They get their energy from being alone. Or are they someone who's always participated in group activities? They get their energy from interacting with others. Most of us actually fall into both categories, but there's a predominant preference that most of us have. But we all enjoy a little bit of both to some degree. All of these things will influence kind of where you're coming from. Am I visiting my dad that lives on his own in a retirement home? He's always been a little bit of a less than happy disposition, and he's always been an introvert. Am I visiting my mom who lives with my dad and, one of their grandchildren? Mom has always been an upbeat kind of person, always very sociable. Totally different situation. So there's a lot of background stuff before I start throwing ideas about how to have a visit during social distancing. Okay, regardless, okay, understanding all of that foundational stuff, what we need to consider ahead of time breaks down, as I see it, into 3 different categories. First of all, kind of thinking about the intention of your visit. I want to give yourselves permission, because I gave those definitions right at the beginning. We have visiting and we have relationships. So it's okay if the purpose, the motivation of your visit is just simply to provide routine. All I want to do is call dad every morning at 9:30, so I know he's getting up. I know he's had his coffee. He's telling me he's getting dressed regularly, a sense of routine. Maybe I'm calling so that somebody gets a bit of a break. Someone living with dementia may be asking the same question routinely throughout the day, and maybe the caregiver, the person that lives with them, needs a little bit of a pause from that. The other thing is, I may just want to check in. How are you doing? I'm not worried about routine. Mom is doing fine. I just want to see how dad is doing. Whatever the intention or motivation of your visit, they're all good. What I'd like to focus on now, though, is that sweet spot, that overlap of the time and the kinship development. Okay, so here we go. So what to consider ahead of time? Again, I break it down. I love bullet points. So here we go. How much time do you have? So planning ahead of time for a visit that's going to be an hour on the phone, a package or whatever, that's a lot more of a time investment. So please don't set the bar too high if you don't have the time. The amount of time you spend with someone is not a determinant of how successful the visit is. How relaxed are you? If you are stressed, if there is, as there is, I think for a lot of us, a lot going on. My job is a bit shaky right now. My kids are home full time. I'm still expected to work. If your stress level is very high, it's going to be really difficult to really kind of dive deep and to think about some visiting techniques and so on. Give yourself permission to take a break. And then the other thing to think about is, who else are they living with, if that is the case, be it staff, be it fellow residents, be it family member, because they come into the picture as well. If the other family member is needing more attention, you may not have a lot of time and you might be under a lot of stress, but maybe just that simple 3-minute check-in every morning is all you can accommodate, your stress can handle, and that's okay. So that does come into the equation. I just wanted to recognize that as well. So when it comes to what to consider, how to do the visit comes into play because it depends on kind of where your comfort level is. One of the things that everybody is, more and more talking about, and we're actually seeing the cohort of the 70 and older age bracket are more and more embracing using technology. It is an option. We're going to talk about that. And there's the good old-fashioned telephone, visiting someone over the phone. Absolutely wonderful. Definitely an option. I want to talk about what we're now calling street side visits or window visits, where you do as it sounds. You visit by seeing them through a plate of glass. And then also packages, using the traditional either front door drop-offs or sending stuff through the mail. So depending on how you want to visit them, you'll have to consider some stuff ahead of time. So here we go. If you are going to use technology, there's a few things to think about. First of all, what is your comfort with technology? Do you have the technology? Do you have a device that has a camera in it? Are you comfortable using the internet? Is there internet capability at the other end? So be real. If your comfort with technology isn't very good, it probably, it's going to stress. So maybe, I'm not saying we don't use it, but just be aware of your comfort with technology. For the person living with dementia, sometimes seeing your face on a screen and hearing your voice possibly could be confusing. They may not understand why you're not right in the room. I can see her, so that's possible. Or they may get confused with, why are there elephants in my living room? So, they see things behind you, or they can hear the radio in the kitchen, or the radio in your kitchen behind you, and they wonder, why are there elephants in my living room? This is actually something that happened with a family member in our catchment area. The daughter had the television on in the background for her children, and dad could see the elephants, and he couldn't understand why there were elephants in her living room. So that became then the visit, was trying to make him understand that. The other thing is, it could be overwhelming, trying to, their threshold of comfort with technology combined with dealing with the sounds and the visual, it can just be overwhelming. Once it's all set up, it's fine, but getting there can be very stressful. So it's a bit of a cost benefit analysis. Is it worth the stress if that's an issue? On the other hand, for some people, it's reassuring to see your face. We get to, laugh when they crack a joke. We get to show genuine concern. There's more messaging going into the brain than if they just hear your voice. Pauses are a little easier when I can see your face versus when it's just quiet on the phone. So for some, seeing your face will be reassuring. So it's definitely an option. The other suggestion, if you're going to be using Zoom meetings, team meetings, all of those platforms where you're interacting this way, have some things ready to talk about. So Dad, have you been in the garden today? Hey Dad, did you watch the news yesterday? Have some things ready to talk about. Not that you're jumping in all the time, but so those pregnant pauses don't become uncomfortable pauses. So just have a few dot notes of things ready to talk about that are of interest to them. This is not the time to talk about politics or religion or money or anything heavy topics. We just want to keep it light where possible. Don't feel pressured. Again, going back to that definition of visiting is about spending time. The amount of time you spend with the person is not reflective of the quality of the visit. So don't feel this pressure that you have to do a half-hour visit or anything like that. So don't worry about that. I feel like sometimes, I just showed you that wonderful grocery store in someone's living room, but please, no social pressure. I see all the stuff going on the internet, and it's just like, that's great, but it might not work for you, or maybe you can't do it. Maybe you can't sing. I can't sing. I would never sing over the internet. So don't feel this pressure that it has to be all jazz hands and flashy. It's okay just to talk sometimes. So those are some things to consider in regards to visiting through the computer, through the internet. Now let's talk about how to visit, maybe using the telephone, and some things to consider ahead of time. So phones have the advantage of being a tool that is deep in our memory. It's something that most of us, even in this cohort of the 80 and older, phones have been in their life for over 50 years. So there's a certain sense of comfort in using the phone. So for some, just use the phone. Don't even worry about trying to set up a Zoom if it's going to cause too much stress. It may be easier for the person to interact with you over the phone. So that's fine. When you do call, because there's no visual information for Dad to see who it is, please introduce yourself. Hi Dad, it's me, Sarah. Or, oh Dad, that's funny. Say Dad, give him the point of reference of who he's speaking with, because he doesn't have that visual information. He only has your voice. So when you call, we just have to watch, we get away from, hi, it's me. We want to actually give them the label, whatever the tag is that we use within the family. Also, because of language processing difficulties in, someone's brain that has a dementia, sometimes just hearing your voice is a lot easier to process. So sometimes, depending on the person you're visiting, how their language skills are, it may be that you're holding up the weight of the conversation, and that's okay. Give yourself permission that if it works and you're getting feedback that they're smiling, they're laughing, they said that was good, It's okay if you do a lot of the talking under those circumstances. Again, just like with the computer, you want to have a few things ready ahead of time, especially if you're the one that will be taking most of the lead on getting conversation going. So have a few things ready ahead of time. And for the phone, there's a real advantage to routine. So try calling around the same time every day, or the same day of the week, although now it's kind of hard to know what day of the week it is to begin with. But a sense of routine can really help. And this goes also with the online visits as well. Okay, the window visits or the curbside visits, just a few things to think of ahead of time. So these on your part will have to be planned ahead of time. Do I need to tell the retirement home, could you please make sure dad is by the front lobby? Do I need to coordinate with the long-term care home staff? Can someone please guide my mom to the front lobby? What about, do I need to coordinate it if mom and dad live in a house and the living room faces the back of the house? Do I need to coordinate that mom gets dad to the front of the house? So there will have to be some pre-planning in regards to that. Also, we may have to have large signs printed. Hi, Dad, how are you? If they can still read. So it's another idea to consider, because there's only so much kind of waving we can do. So we may have to have some signs up that they can read from a distance, maybe crack a joke, something like that. Also, get creative. So if there are grandchildren involved, young people, can they color some pictures that we stick to the window? I saw some great ideas at this one long-term care home. What they did is they put up painter's tape, like a tic-tac-toe symbol on the window, and then people were playing tic-tac-toe using whiteboard markers. So those are erasable markers. I just thought that was a great idea. One family that we know of, what they did is they put a package together, dropped it off at the front porch, and then mom and dad opened the package inside, and there were just things that they could talk about through the window. So just kind of some, feel free to get those creative juices going. Cueing the person with dementia to remember that you cannot come inside. Because you don't want to obviously keep repeating, oh, no, I can't come in. No, I can't come in. So give the visual cue, even though you're standing on the other side of the glass. If they're not understanding why you can't come in, the door's right there, come on in. If you're wearing a mask, that might give a visual cue in their mind that, oh, she must not be feeling well. Yeah, I'd like her to stay out. So sometimes that visual cue will help. Listen, there's nothing wrong with repeating the answer. No, Dad, we're not allowed inside. If you're okay with that, if it's not frustrating for you or them, that's absolutely fine. The other thing is, I've had people that sent a note beforehand, Dad, I'll be visiting, I'm not allowed inside. And I coordinate with the staff or with mom to have that nearby so dad can read that letter as I stand out on the driveway waving, and he can see me and read the letter at the same time. It kind of brings all the information in the context together. So that's another thing that you'd have to prepare ahead of time. If that doesn't work, so if it causes confusion, if it causes distress, then you know what, maybe a curbside window visit is not the right fit. I'm not saying give up after the first time, but if it's not working, it's not working. So we're going to look at some of the other options that we've talked about. So it can cause confusion, but again, if it works, then definitely it's something to keep going with. The other type of visit is using the mail. So whether you're doing a porch drop off and they walk out and pick up what you've dropped off, or you're actually sending stuff in the mail because maybe they live really far away. So what to consider ahead of time with this is they may need cueing and support on opening the package, because it would be unfortunate if all this work that you did and all this love and care that you put into a package ends up sitting in the front hallway. Because if they're not used to that motor planning of opening up the mail, if they're just used to put the mail in the basket because someone else pays the bills, someone else does that task, wouldn't that be unfortunate? So they're going to need a little help in getting and opening their mail. Also, make it really clear who it's from. So can you put pictures in it? Can you put letters in it? Are there traditional treats, you know, that are just kind of within the family? Do some Christmas baking if you can get a hold of flour. Do some Christmas baking, you know, so they get those cookies that are familiar and draw comfort. So really make it clear who it's from. If you send a package and mom helps dad open it up and you hear from mom on the phone that, oh yes, he loved opening it up, this is not quiz time. I am not going to ask dad, so I sent you that package. Did you like it? What was in it? What were the pictures about? This is not time to test their memory. What we need to know is in the moment that they opened up that package, they got something that gave them some pleasure. So that's what this is about. But that's hard for us because they're getting their visit, their quality visit when we're not there, but that's okay. Also, try not to overdo the package if possible. Maybe have more than one. So we have something that he opens on Monday, something that he opens up on Thursday. We don't need to do everything all in one visit. Now, listen, I understand as well. For some people, I drive half an hour. I drop off on the front doorstep. So I've got to make it worthwhile. That's absolutely fine. But could you break it down into smaller packages? Just food for thought, because doing it all at once can be overwhelming and confusing in itself. So is there a way to break it down so that it's smaller bite-sized pieces? So a letter on Monday, a box of cookies on Tuesday, a funny picture on Wednesday, and so on. There are options of maybe the content of what you're dropping off isn't just, hi dad, it's us, our house is fine. Maybe it's not just about a traditional visit, but maybe I'm actually going to give them something to do. So I'm going to drop off a word search book. I'm going to print stuff off the internet. I'm going to pick up I'm going to get an activity kit from the Alzheimer's Society, and I'll talk about that later. So it doesn't have to be you coming up with ideas per se. There's a lot out there. Put them in the package if that's what you're going to do and you know that they can do it. So, okay. So we've talked about the history of the relationship and how that influences things. We've talked about the different ways of visiting: computer, phone, front side or window side visits, or the mail. All of that comes into play. Now what do I do and where do I look for ideas? Again, I want to recognize there's history here. So I don't want people to feel pressured. I mean, if your relationship with the person you're caring for has been strained all your life, don't feel that all of a sudden you've got to build a grocery store in the living room. There's history here. Even if your history is completely positive and wonderful and your relationship really is a good thing in your life, even if dementia is in a part of it now, your fatigue has to come into play. If you are emotionally spent, if you are tired, if you are multitasking to the nth degree, this is not the time to take on a new learning format of how to use computers and create packages for dad to open for the next 2 weeks and so on. It's too much. So recognizing that I'm not shooting for the moon here. I love bite-sized pieces. Where can we go? Where are some ideas? Well, here we go. So family and friends, yes, please use them. They have lots of ideas. You don't have to do it all. So you want to do a 9 o'clock check-in every morning with mom and dad. Absolutely brilliant. Are there other people that can do the check-in? Just so there's a phone call every day. It doesn't have to be you. So, if you've got friends, if there are neighbors, could we come up with a schedule so that you're only doing 2 phone calls a week? Nothing wrong with that. Do you have young people in your family that are comfortable using the internet? Could they do some searches and help write a story? Whoops, that's my timer to tell me I have 5 more minutes. Could I use the young people in my life to write a story that's so meaningful for dad? I mean, he loves airplanes, so I'm going to have my 14-year-old print up a really good story for dad. It's only 7 pages long. 4 sentences per page. It's perfect for dad, and we're going to pop that in the mail. Love the 14-year-old that did that. So don't feel that it has to be on your shoulders as maybe the primary caregiver. Take advantage of the other people in your life and in their life as well. Our website. So on our website, we have different resources that are available because the explosion of online resources during COVID-19 has been absolutely spectacular. I actually think it's what the internet was truly designed for. So on our website, we have our services on a tab, and there's a drop down. There's two for you to choose from. One is education, all kinds of free online education that we're offering. The other one is health and wellness. If you click on the health and wellness tab, we actually have one called COVID-19. And on there, there's going to be all kinds of activities you can print and websites you can go to and things like that. So check out our website. We do have some resources there. We try to keep it as simple as possible. Also online, like I said, we have some links on our website. If you're comfortable using the internet and you're doing a computer visit, you know, all the museums and art galleries, there's all kinds of stuff now that's available online. And if you have a staff or a caregiver that can bring this up on an iPad for dad, and he can watch, I mean, I was watching the African Serengeti last week. It was about 5 minutes. It was pretty cool. So it's not a, you know, me visiting dad, but I'm giving him a moment of a positive distraction. So we do have some of those linked on our website. Please do check them out. Also, don't hesitate just around the house and garden. I mean, what is there? Is there something you could package up and send them to them? Could we be talking about, Dad, have you gone outside? You know, the buds are finally blooming and the birds are really, you know, chirping and so on. Is there stuff built in around the house and the garden, if there is a garden, that you can take advantage of as well? So those are kind of some go-to sources that I would really encourage you to check out. So, and actually before I get into that, the other thing I want to talk about are the activity kits. So our phone number is at the bottom of the screen here. And if you call your local Alzheimer's Society office and you say that we would like an activity kit, every Tuesday we mail out an activity kit. We're on a 2-week rotation. And what these are packages. They're quite thick. There's a lot of different stuff in there, but these activity kits have things like word searches, math puzzles, articles to read, picture identification, all kinds of different things that some are independent, some are they need to do it with someone, but these activity kits are available. So you can call our office, we'll send it to you or we'll send it to the person you're caring for, whichever makes more sense, and then you can take it from there. Our next package is coming out on Monday, May the 4th, and then they come out every 2 weeks after that, but you can call anytime and we'll send it out to you. So there's a lot of different places to get activity ideas, visiting ideas. It doesn't have to be coming from your own creative juices. These can be great places to check out to get things started. So in summary, social distancing lets us look at relationship building in ways we never would have thought of before. I mean, my job as a public education coordinator, I probably about once every 2 months, I'm doing a talk on how to have a successful visit. And we talk about hands-on ideas and activities and games and things that people can do. I never talked about visiting online. I never talked about visiting at the corner. And this really is kind of pushing and expanding how we look at visiting. So there are a lot of difficulties with this. I'm not going to pretend it's all rainbows and butterflies, but I do like that we're all finding different ways that we can have quality time with the person that we care about. So thank you so much. I hope that there were some ideas that came from this talk. As I said earlier, you can call us not just for our activity kits, but if you think that you'd like to chat with a counselor or maybe look into what other education opportunities there are, please just call our number. This is what we do. I hope this talk was of value for you, and thank you very, very much. Take care.